In politics, everyone has an opinion. But we have the data. 11 years of Modi Sarkar.
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी
What do voters feel? Where do voters stand? What has been NDA's biggest achievements, failures? Where does opposition stand? How will Modi's 11 years in governance be remembered? Is Prime Minister's graph rising or falling? All tracked by India Today's political stock exchange. Unmatched, unmissable data analytics. All right, viewers, welcome to the Political Stock Exchange, unmatched, unmissable data analytics. Like I said earlier, everybody has an opinion on how the NDA government over the last 11 years has fared, how the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has fared. But viewers, in midst of all of this, we have the actual data. And it's as soon as conducted between 7th to 9th, a survey conducted where we went across the board, speaking to over 2,500 voters, asking them on where they stand on a multitude of issues. Let me quickly cut across to our guests this evening as we analyze the voters' report card on Prime Minister Modi's 11 years. R.P. Singh, spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party, joining us. Nigat Abbas, spokesperson, Congress. Rajat Sethi, political commentator. Ashutosh, author, political analyst. Amitabh Tiwari, political strategist, commentator, election analyst and researcher. All right, right before we dive in to our first data point on the most impactful reform by Prime Minister Modi and his government, I want to cut across to all of you. Like I said, everybody has an opinion. The data might suggest something entirely different. So this is your window to give your opinion. And Ashutosh, let's begin with you. What do you make of the 11 years of the Modi government?
Preeti, I think the last 11 years, or you can say that the Narendra Modi regime since 2014, at least will be remembered for how the social fabric has got fractured, how the communities has turned into two groups which are trying to fight with each other. How the community, how the society has been divided into the different ideological cabins, and that's the worst part which could have any society or the country could have felt. And the other point which I want to make is that today, at the 11 years, when the country is faced with such a national security crisis, we found ourselves friendless across the globe. And where vis-a-vis the Pakistan has got more friends than we today. So in terms of the foreign policy issues, on terms of social fabric and the economy, India's economy is not growing as it should have. The Prime Minister Modi is probably the
So Ashutosh, I'm going to try and cut you short because we have a lot of questions that we need to pack in. But I'm going to give you, in the beginning, because we'll circle back to the ratings that the voters have also given them. But in the beginning, if you had to rate the Modi government over the course of 11 years from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest?
I will not give more than 5, more than 4.
More than 5 and you've relegated to 4.
No. Okay. I will not give more than 4.
More than 4. So Ashutosh is 4 on 10, but Rajat Sethi, what's your opinion before we get into the data?
Well, I think, Preeti ji, if anybody projects a picture of gloom and doom, and without finding any kind of a silver lining, clearly he or she is insincere in his or her analysis. Clearly, India is on a progressing path. Obviously you can debate that this could have been an alternate pathway, and this is where Prime Minister Modi did well, and this is where he didn't do good. Then it looks and sounds like a fair assessment. But, people will fall into those brackets and would want to paint everything as dark and, nightmarish. I mean, it could be for his own political career of Ashutosh ji, but not necessarily for India. I believe that things have progressed. Clearly, India is on a path of ascendancy. I still would have loved to see many more other aspects also. For example, administrative reforms, bureaucratic reforms. But you
Okay.
cannot take away from what Prime Minister Modi has achieved over these decade-long leadership, leading the country at the helm.
All right. Okay, Rajat Sethi, 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. How much would you rate the 11 years of the Modi government?
I would give him 9.
You'd give him 9. So a massive jump from 4 to 9. This is what, two different political analysts of two sides of the spectrum. Amitabh Tiwari, very quickly, how would you rate the Modi government, the ups and downs, the, where the government stands on the metrics of what you feel they've achieved or not achieved?
See, essentially, clearly, the government has worked a lot on infrastructure creation. I think that is a big plus for the Modi government. And also on the national security issue, the way the zero tolerance against terrorism activities and the stance against Pakistan is also something which has been lapped up by voters. On the front of social polarization, I think that is a valid point made by Asutoshji that polarization has increased in the society over the last 10, 11 years. And I would say on the aspect of unemployment, the government needs to buckle up and do a lot.
That's one of the questions there. Let's see what, would you want to venture a number between 1 to 10, Amitabh Tiwari?
See,
to give the Modi government?
I always believe that things are not black or white, it's grey. So I would rate it somewhere at around 7 out of 10.
At 7. All right, so, that's not bad. But, all right, so from what, let's get into now party spokespersons. Nikhat, if you would want to go first on what has been, of course, the opposition's critique of the 11 years of Modi governance.
Hi, Preeti. Good evening to you and good evening to the fellow panelists and your viewers. If we talk about the 11 years from farmers to youth and from economy to the national security, what I think that BJP's 11 years, Modi's 11 years has been nothing but just a textbook of blunders wrapped in PR. Because he's the same person, Narendra Modi is the same person who had promised 2 crore jobs in 1 year. But what he every year has promised since 11 years is nothing but broken dreams. He's the same person who has talked about the subsidized LPG, but in his tenure, the LPG rates has gone from 410 to 1100. He's the same person who used to talk about the GDP, but it has stooped so low to 6.5%. The unemployment going at the highest in last 45 years, which is 9.2%, and the food inflation at 12.5%. What I think is that the Achhe Din which he used to claim, what Narendra Modi used to claim, has only come up for the people who travel in the private jets and not for the people who are in the Russian lines. And he has clearly turned India into Adani's shopping mall. And when we talk about the 3 master stroke, Preeti, what Narendra Modi ji has always said that these were the 3 master strokes. What he has done is demonetization, abrogation of Article 370, and
do I need to ask you how much you would rate him on the government, the NDA government, on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'll tell you. Just allow me for 10 seconds.
Of course,
I will tell you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Make your point.
Okay. Then minus 56 inches, Preeti. Minus
56. All right. We're getting all sorts of numbers
he has
there.
Everything,
RP Singh, you want to make that
yeah.
pitch of 11 years of Modi governance? Achievements, I'm sure.
Well, Preeti, I'll come to the achievement first. First, let's talk about the numbers. You are giving numbers, or Ashutosh giving numbers, or Nikhat Abbas giving numbers, or Rajat Sethi giving numbers won't help. Ultimately, it counts down to how many elections we have won and people are accepting our policies or not. That's a bigger thing. And yes, if the number has to be given, then yes, 90 plus, because 90 times Mr. Rahul Gandhi in succession has lost elections in last few years. So the numbers can be judged by this only, that how much popular Prime Minister Modi ji is and how the opposition doing. But coming to just 2-3 core subjects. Now, I'm not going to get into the details. Remember, Manmohan Singh ji in his regime said, coalition compulsions lead to corruption. Tell me one case of corruption in last 11 years. There's a basic, Second, national security. I remember Anthony Saab in the parliament said, we're not building roads around the China and we're not building infrastructure along the borders of China and other places because ultimately if we build, the China will use that. That is a statement in the parliament. One more thing. Last but not the least, the Jan Kalyan schemes of the Prime Minister reaching out to the poorest of poorest, whether it is Ayushman Bharat, whether it is Kisan Samman Nidhi, whether it is housing to poor, whether it is tap water to for poor. I mean, all these schemes have led to poverty elevation, and it's not me, the World Bank's latest data.
RP Singh, on a scale of 1 to 10, save it, sir. Like I said, like Nikhat, save it. You'll have enough to talk about through the course of this broadcast. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate your government, sir?
I just now told you, go by the rating of the people and we'll be winning elections after election. I mean, that's the best. I mean, I give 10 out of 10, you say, oh,
all right, so 10 out of 10, the BJP minus 56 is what the Congress
Let's
gives.
decide by what people have to say.
7 was Amitabh Tiwari, 4 was Ashutosh and Rajat Sethi. What were you? You were 7. No, Rajat Sethi, what was your number?
दो नंबर आप ही उठा लो साथ में.
Sorry, आप बताओ ना आपका नंबर क्या था?
It was 9. I don't know
9,
what is
sorry,
going
okay.
in your mind, Preeti ji. What दिल की बात
7 wasn't so bad. 7 wasn't so bad. I don't think there's anything wrong with 7. So 9 was Rajat Sethi. But all right, let's quickly move in to the first data point. And like I said, viewers, we can all have opinions, but let's see what the respondents had to say. And we've broken them up in terms of NDA voters, opposition voters, fence sitters. So always important to look what the others are thinking, which are neither the NDA or the opposition camp. The first set of numbers and what has been the most impactful reform by Prime Minister Modi and his government. What you see on your television screen is very interesting because those respondents who usually have an affinity towards the BJP and the NDA, 24.6% of them said that Abrogation 370 was the biggest reform of the Modi government. The opposition just 10% and the others not bad, 19.4%. They fall neither of the camps, but 19.4% of people believe that Abrogation 370 has been the biggest reform that the Modi government has put forth. Digital India, 18.6% NDA, opposition respondents, 23.9%. Well, that's a big one that the opposition respondents have given to the Modi government, where nearly 24% of them feel that the most impactful reform of the Modi government has been Digital India. Others, 12.9%. GST is interesting because 13.9% of opposition feels that it is the most impactful reform. Because mind you, viewers, it was GST which was also one of the most controversial reforms that was put forth by the Modi government. Let's quickly move into our second set of graphics and we will go back to our panelists this evening. How effective has Modi government been in managing the economy? Now, NDA respondents there say nearly 50%, 50.4% of NDA respondents polled highly effective, that the Modi government has been highly effective in managing the economy. Even 37.4% of NDA voters seem to say that highly effective. Others, 31.2%. That's an important figure. So nearly 3 out of 10 people who neither come in from the NDA or the opposition camp or affinity towards either of them feel that the Modi government has been highly effective in managing the economy. Somewhat effective, NDA respondents 23.3%, 20.9%, others 24.7%. Highly ineffective, 8.1% of NDA respondents, opposition 13.6% and others at 16.1%. Let's get in the opinions rolling. Ashutosh, would you want to weigh in, especially when it comes down to the most impactful reform by the Modi government in the last 11 years, Abrogation 370 right on top? And what's interesting, Ashutosh, is that even the ones who don't fall into either sides of the camp, be it the NDA or the opposition voters, also seem to suggest nearly 20% that has been the biggest reform.
See, Preeti, you, as you know, being a broadcaster myself, I don't question the data of any public opinion or anything. But if you ask me, I think that Narendra Modi's government will be remembered for the opportunities it has missed in the last 11 years. India should have, by now, should have been on the roll. India should have been something around a 6 trillion economy or a 7 trillion economy. But the way they have managed it, I think they have messed up, thoroughly messed up. And this shows, data also. When Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister, 2014, 2015, 2016, the economy was growing at the rate of 8%. But what happened? Suddenly one fine night, आपको लगा कि यहाँ demonetization कर देना चाहिए. And then the way they messed up GST, and even before the COVID, don't forget it. Don't blame
Okay.
COVID. Before the COVID, the GDP was something around 3.5%. So don't blame the COVID for what happened later. The issue is, when the economy was going at a rate of 8%, and then suddenly it has come down to 3.5% in 2020, February 2020, and now onward it has never gone up. Again, it is 6.5, 6.2, something like that, with a low base. My point is, the economy by now should have been something
Okay.
around 7 to 8%, 8 trillion economy, but we could not reach there. We are still.
Ashutosh, but if you look at the figures on economy, and Rajat Sethi, I'll bring you in. They actually, you gave that caveat right in the beginning that you don't want to question the numbers. But if you just go by the data, it does seem that where the voters are concerned, and they could even come in from the opposition's divide, and they might be voting for the opposition. Even they seem. Yes, sir. Make a quick point. Yes.
Can I answer this question? Even in this data, if you look at the Make in India, the very first time the Prime Minister took office, Make in India was a very tom-tommed. Now, where is this? Something around 9.1%, 10%. GST, again, 11.5%. Why not 30%, 40%, or the 60%? So the point I'm trying to make is the economy you had taken at the rate of 8%, and now you are something around 6.5%.
But Rajat Sethi, I want you to weigh in, because if you look at the data when it comes to how effective has the Modi government been in managing the economy, you look at either sides of the divide, NDA, even the opposition, where nearly 4 in 10 people, 37.4, that's closer to 40, actually believes that the government has been highly effective where managing the economy is concerned. So, whatever Ashutosh, his thoughts are, don't seem to at least filter down to even what are mostly opposition voters. They actually believe that the government did a good job.
Well, if Ashutosh ji and the people in the opposition were to unpack these numbers, they would be very important lessons for them. But the problem is they never do analysis. They only come on TV to do some kind of an analysis.
Why this personal attack?
But,
I seriously,
sir,
I don't like this.
I
don't like this.
Let's stay clear of this.
If you cannot interpret.
Okay, gentlemen,
He talks
one second, let's go one by
rubbish.
one. Okay, Ashutosh, I understand, Ashutosh, that you want to steer clear of personal attacks, and Rajat, we are all better than that. Let's steer clear of personal attacks.
BJP and their supporters, they always want to attack me.
Okay, Ashutosh, your protest is registered. Rajat, let's try, we're all better than that. Let's try and steer clear of personal attacks, but make your point, sir, quickly.
I have to sit here and go through the torture of absolute absurd analysis of the data also, which came in from Ashutosh ji. Now, I have to point it out because he said, GST ka number zyada
Sir,
kyun
one
diya?
second.
Aapko
Okay.
data ka analysis karna
Okay,
aata hi nahi
let's
aata hai.
once again. Can I get time out? What I'm going to do is, because I have a timer, I can start putting it on this.
I don't want to suffer people like him.
Please, this
Okay,
is bizarre.
I can say that.
First
Okay.
of all,
One second.
I'm not here to
Rajat
suffer
Sethi,
people
let's
like
all.
him.
Okay, let's temper it down.
Even once.
Okay, temper it down, sir. Rajat Sethi, can we just get into analysis
We did it
before
on the
insulting
channels.
any of our panelists?
That has
And
been sponsored by the
I would
government.
hope the same respect is according to you, Rajat. Move on. Rajat, make your point.
again, I'm saying you need on a national television, you should have the ability to read the charts before you come out on a television and read the charts. One of the remarks that was made previously was that why is the GST number not higher? Now, the simple point is that the size of the pie is fixed. Out of 100 only, you need to divide marks between 370 Digital India, GST and CAA. So, of course, people believe that if 370 is to be given the maximum marks, so be it. It doesn't mean that GST was something not appreciated by the people. That is what I'm saying. That's an absurd understanding of the data.
Okay, I want to go to Amitabh Tiwari. Do you want to weigh in?
Let me come.
Okay, make your point.
We gave him
Quickly.
adequate time. Even on the economy front, the problem is that the Congress spokesperson forgot that there is a time value of money. When you talk about 400 rupees 15 years back, it does not mean 400 rupees today. Having this basic common sense of time value of money would have had a much more educated debate.
Okay, I want to bring in. Allow me to now. Okay, now.
These spokespersons will never have the
So,
understanding.
you know what? I'm going to start. I'm going to bring my timer out. It's best to start using the timer. All of us will get 1 minute each. Can we pull out the timer? I'm asking our producers, and we will all get
Again,
the,
this
you know,
data
Amitabh
is
Tiwari, I
as
want you to come in for an interjection.
बीजेपी
It's
वालों का
interesting.
खाना हजम नहीं होता जब तक ये मुझ पर अटैक नहीं करते. इनका खाना हजम नहीं होता
अरे
जब
all
तक
right,
मुझ पर
okay,
अटैक
की बात
sir,
करते हैं,
let's-
आप बोलते हैं अटैक नहीं होता.
All right, okay, time out
इनका-
again.
इनका
Amitabh
खाना
Tiwari,
हजम नहीं
quickly
होता
come in.
जब
Can
तक
I
मुझ पर
just
अटैक
get
नहीं करते.
Amitabh Tiwari on the
मैं
numbers?
analysis
Amitabh
की बात
Tiwari.
कर रहा हूं
हजम नहीं
आपसे.
होता.
Acha,
अपच हो जाती है.
Ashutosh ji and Rajat, take, like, let's all temper down a bit. Temper down, sir. Both of you, gentlemen, please, sir, temper down. Rajat,
I know what
temper
kind
down.
of what kind of spokesperson the
Ashutosh,
BJP
I want
come on the
you
TV
to,
for
I want to get into
language
Ashutosh. Can I just get Ashutosh? I want to bring in Ashutosh. Ashutosh, do you want to weigh in on the numbers there? It's interesting because especially on how effective has the Modi government been in managing the economy. Can I get Ashutosh? Let's just get in Ashutosh. Can I get Amitabh Tiwari, please? All right, Amitabh Tiwari, to bring you on.
Essentially, if
make
you
your point.
compare, if you compare the, let's say, the 10-year growth rates of Manmohan Singh versus the 10-year growth rates of Modi, or if you compare the 10-year average inflation versus the 10-year average inflation under, or the 11-year average inflation under Modi, these numbers are better compared to the UPA tenor. This is what is perhaps getting reflected in the numbers as well, wherein almost 3/4 of NDA supporters believe that Modi has managed the economy highly effectively or effectively, and even amongst the opposition voters, around 58% believe that the performance has been effective or highly effective. So the numbers speak for themselves. Of course, there are issues regarding unemployment, price rise, corruption, which we will see, or perhaps which will come ahead. But on these parameters, it seems that the government has performed well compared to
All right, before I bring in the Congress and the BJP spokesperson, allow me to give in another data point. And the question that we went to the respondents with was, how effective has the Modi government been in addressing the issue of unemployment? Viewers, election after election by the opposition has been fought on the plank of unemployment. What do the voters feel? What is the report card of the Modi government in addressing the issue of unemployment? Let's quickly get the data. Highly effective, 32.3% NDA voters. Now that's interesting because only 3 in 10, about 3 in 10 voters who vote for the NDA government believe that the Modi government has been effective to address the issue of unemployment. So that doesn't augur well. Somewhat effective, well, 33%. So about 60% say it's about somewhat too effective where NDA voters are concerned. Opposition, 22% feel, just about 2 in 10 feel that the Modi government has been effective, somewhat effective, 21.7%. Others is interesting, 17.8%. So is the figure that actually feels that Modi government has addressed unemployment issues. Somewhat effective, 26.5%. Now let's go to highly ineffective and somewhat ineffective. That's interesting because if you look at the others there who are neither the opposition or the NDA camp, that figure stands at 27%. That is nearly about 3 in 10 who don't vote for the Modi government or the opposition feel that this government has been completely ineffective in dealing with the issue of unemployment. RP Singh, how do you read these figures? RP Singh, can you hear me?
First, let me put
Go ahead,
something in perspective. Preeti. You just now said 1/3, 10 out of 3. It's not 10 out of 3. I mean, you total it together. I mean, fact is that someone effective means that yes, people understand that the employment has been generated, and when so much of infrastructure is being built countrywide, whether it's roads, whether it's railways, whether it's airports, whether it's infrastructure otherwise. So obviously that generates employment, and then there are data to put on record that employment has been generated, whether EPFO data or other data also which tells that yes, employment has been generated, and then there is a lot of self-employment which has happened. Almost 52.5 crore people have taken Mudra Yojana loan, and if I go by just 1% along with, I'm going just 1% to employ another 1%, mean almost 100 crore people are there on a system. I mean, when you go and tell a person नौकरी मिली तो कहेगा नौकरी नहीं मिली, रोजगार मिला काम करते हो काम करता हूँ. So there's a difference whether you get a job or you are employed when you do some work or not. So there's the difference between the issue, because it's almost figures are there. I mean, as I said, Mudra Yojana loan reflects that.
Okay.
And Ashutosh ji, थोड़ा खाने वाने की बात मत करा करे यार, आप ऐसे ही कहते हो भाजपा वाले को, सॉरी स्मॉल रिक्वेस्ट टू अस, सोचिए खाने वाने की मत बात करें, ऐसे मैं भी कह दूंगा कि भाजपा वालों का खाना नहीं होता, ऐसे मैं भी बोल दूंगा आपको
RP Singh, let's stick to the brief, sir. No, but
RP is
no,
a
if 30%,
friend, he can say that.
No, okay, RP is a friend, he can say that, but Rajat is not a friend. Rajat cannot say that.
I regard.
All right, we let this rest. Everyone, take it down a notch. But Nighat, I want to bring you in on this. But RP Singh, you said that it's not 3 out of 10. But if 30% of the people who vote for the NDA have said that that the Modi government has been able to address employment, so one would read it that 3 out of 10 people feel that. While
as I told you, if you ask.
Sir, you can't cherry pick data ना, unemployment data sir आप कह रहे हो economy data perfect है, बाकी सारा data perfect है, इसमें आप
मैं आपको उसको नहीं एक मिनट, आशुतोष जानते हैं मेरा बैकग्राउंड, मैं यही सब काम करता था आज से 10 साल पहले 15 साल पहले, और यही सब डेटा का ही काम करता था, सब डेटा निकालना, उनको एनालाइज करने का काम था मेरा। पर जो मोटी बात कह रहा हूँ आप बात समझिए, इफ आई गो टू अ पर्सन से नौकरी मिली या आर यू एम्प्लॉयड, आपका रोजगार है तो फर्क पड़ेगा बात का।
सर बात ये है ना that we'll have to go whatever the data is, you can criticize the data, but you can't pick one over the other and say पहले वाला सही था ये वाला गलत है। There's a problem there. But Nighat Abbas, I want to bring you in because yes,
हर क्वेश्चन no, how do you put a question? There's a bigger issue.
Okay.
आपने अभी पूछा
for the sake of an argument, sir, allow me to move on.
Give me a second.
Sir, the problem is I need to get the counter in this. Yes, make your quick point. 10 seconds.
एक सेकंड दे दीजिए, काउंटर इनसे पहले बात तो पूरी कर लूं मैं अपनी, प्लीज। अब आपने पूछा 370 डिजिटल इंडिया, मेक इन इंडिया सीए, रिकॉल की बात है ना, लोगों को रिकॉल 370 ज्यादा आता है, पीपल स्टिल हैव अ बेटर रिकॉल ऑन 370।
All right, okay, sir, allow me to bring in the Congress counterpart. Nighat, RP Singh, okay, from now on we're pulling the 1 minute counter. For all other interjections, everybody will get 1 minute each. Nighat Abbas, make your point. Unemployment data, interesting, but look at the one where the economy is concerned, where even 37.4% of your own voters say that the Modi government has done a stellar job.
See, I don't want to comment on the data from where you've gotten, Preeti, but what perfection looks like for BJP is like they import the crude oil from Russia at the rate of 26 rupees per litre, but they sell in India at the rate of 103 rupees per litre. I mean, that is the mathematics only BJP supporters realize, and also BJP can explain. And when I was talking about the last, I'd like to start it from there, that the master strokes, like 370, abrogation of Article 370, bringing in of the CAA, and also the demonetization. It was Narendra Modi who had said that he would eliminate the black money, the terrorism and the illegal immigrants from India. But after that also we have the Pulwama, we have the Pahalgam, we have the Pathankot, we have the Uri, we have the Riyasi, and not even a single tear has been shed from the eyes of Narendra Modi. And not to forget that how China has invaded in our country, 20 soldiers martyred. Despite of that fact, not even once Narendra Modi has condemned the act of China. I don't know what kind of settlement Narendra Modi has signed with the country like China that he can't speak a word against them. And also not to forget lately the development after the Operation Sindhu. Allow me for 10 seconds, very important. The CPAC, the establishment, and they want to extend towards Afghanistan through POK. I mean, that is something that is not just economics. That is a political threat to India, and there is a not.
We'll get down to those. Okay, I was just talking to you about the economy and unemployment, but having said that, let's quickly move on. Nighat Abbas, allow me to move on. We're going to take 3 quick questions in because we wasted a fair amount of time and I want to pack in as much data. So our next set of data comes in with the question, has the Modi government promoted social harmony? Ashutosh, this was a sticking point. We're going to bring in Amitabh Tiwari as well, who thought this could be problematic. This is what the data says. Now, Modi voters, NDA voters says to a great extent that the Modi government has promoted social harmony. Once again, 37.6% opposition voters say that the government has been key in promoting social harmony to a great extent. 35.7% of others, which neither fall into the NDA and opposition, say that the government has promoted social harmony. To some extent, 20% NDA voters 13.5% opposition voters, others 16.2%. And Amitabh Tiwari, I want to pull you in because one might look at not at all at 23% to the opposition and others at 25, nearly 26%, but nearly 50% of opposition. I'm not even looking at the NDA voters. 50% of opposition voters and nearly 50% of others actually seem to suggest in our survey that the government has promoted social harmony effectively.
Yeah, so this is what is the difference between an opinion and data. So your data suggests that even 50% of the opposition voters believe that the Modi government has promoted social harmony, and I think more than 70% believe from the NDA that it has promoted social harmony. So that is the data. While what I was speaking about is that the polarization in the society has increased, may not necessarily be at the behest of the Modi government, but it is just that the people themselves have hardened their stance over the last 10, 11 years on various issues.
All
But if
right,
you
let
see
me, yeah,
opposition, it is 50-50 largely. If you include neutral
true.
in no, it is 50-50, while on the NDA side, it is 70-30 to be precise.
But even for the opposition, others to suggest is 50-50 is actually not a bad report card on social harmony where the government is concerned. I want to bring in the next set of data, and Ashutosh, you can weigh in on the social harmony figures as well. And I would think Rajat would also want to come in on that. But let's take you through on the next data point, Modi government's performance in countering terrorism. Now, what do the survey suggest with our respondents when this question was posed? Well, the NDA voters seem to suggest nearly 70%, 69.8%, that the government has been excellent in countering terrorism. Once again, 37.7% opposition voters feel that the government has been excellent in countering terrorism. Others, 45.7%, and that's the game of what others seem to suggest here, viewers, because if you look at excellent and good, then you have nearly 60% of others who seem to suggest that the government has done a good or an excellent job at countering terrorism. On the other front, nearly 50% again of opposition voters seem to suggest that the government has done, if not a good, then an excellent job in countering terrorism. So one once again doesn't quite really need to look at the NDA figures. So that is the data point on television. Now let's take the other set, the Modi government's performance in handling corruption. Let's get that set of piece of data. That in that, excellent 33.6% of NDA, opposition 29.9%, others 23.8%. Good 23.3% NDA, opposition 11.8%, others 19.5%. And very poor 7.2% NDA, 18.4% opposition voters and 20% others. Ashutosh, want to weigh in on that? Because if you look at on the marker of social harmony, it doesn't look so bad. 50% of opposition and other voters actually seem to suggest that the government's done, at least if not to some extent, then a great extent in promoting social harmony. Countering terrorism, if you look at that figure, then nearly 50% of opposition voters feel that the government's done a good, if not an excellent job in doing so.
See, Preeti, in terms of the social harmony, I think that's the biggest anomaly in this data itself. And I rest my case over here, because anybody you ask on the street, you will get the answer. Anybody you ask, except somebody is not from the BJP or somebody not from the RSS. So it's very crystal clear. If the one disruption which the country has seen since 2014 is basically in terms of the social harmony. So much chaos, so much bitterness, so much hatred is all around. You can feel it, even within your family and outside the family. On the issue of terrorism, yes, I completely agree with the data, and I give this government at least 7 out of 10. On countering terrorism, the government has done a good job. There is no doubt about it. And the data itself speaks, and the number of terrorist activities which has happened since 2014 is good enough for anybody to believe. This is not like from 1999 to 2011. At that point of time, whether in Gujarat or in in Uttar Pradesh, any place, the bombs were happening over there. The parliament was attacked. 9 did happen. The blast in the trains happened. Blast in almost every city happened. So there is a good job. And on that issue, I'll give this government 7 out of 10 on the countering terrorism.
All right, okay. Rajat Sethi, you want to come in and weigh in on that? Because interesting figure there. Though, without commenting on Ashutosh, where, of course, he feels that on the marker of social harmony, he feels this data is an anomaly. But he completely agrees where terrorism is concerned. Of course, the corruption, how the government has handled corruption is once again, the government could do better in that, where the data comes into question.
I mean, coming to the corruption front, I am telling you, the retail levels corruption is still intact. At the state level, municipality level, the corruption hasn't changed. It is at the policy level where we are seeing complete eradication of any kind of wheeling dealing that India was so used to during the UPA days. And I think that is where the corruption would have come down to zero. But it is at this retail level where the bureaucratic changes, and this was my opening remark, the administrative changes which should have been there didn't happen. And on the social front, let me tell you, it's very easy to replace statistics with anecdotes and live in an anecdotal world where you believe all the anecdotes, the posters that are spread around you and pasted around you is the reality. You have to go and rely to the data. You cannot attack the messenger. If people are saying something, open your understanding around it, understand why the people feel. One possibility is that if you look at communal incidents, the number of killings or deaths or events of communal incidents happening in the UPA days versus the NDA days, you will see a steep decline in those communal events. And that is a clear marker. In Delhi, you cannot form opinions sitting in a studio. You need to go out, see, count those numbers, and NCRB does a fantastic job. When it is data, you need to look at those alternative data to arrive at what is public thinking, what is my NCRB data thinking, and making sense of all of this instead of living in a la la land where everything is only.
All right, allow me, Raja, to bring in the next to. I know, allow me, Nikat. I don't have the time. I will come to you. Let me give out a bit of more data points, and right after that, I come both to Mr. R.P. Singh and to Nikat Abbas, and of course Amitabh Tiwari as well. Now, to what extent has the Modi government controlled inflation? This is interesting, viewers, because NDA supporters, only 3 out of 10, and R.P. Singh is going to have a problem with that. Only 3 out of 10 say that the government's done a great job. To some extent, 31.6%, again 3 out of 10. Opposition, 22.8% only feel that the government has done a great job. What is interesting here is others, 19.5%. To some extent, the others feel 23.8% that the government's done a decent job in controlling inflation. Opposition, 14.7%. Not at all is the figure that you need to watch out for, where even 14.6% NDA supporters have said that the government has fared terribly on this marker. Opposition 36.5% and 26.5% others feel the same. Now, let's move on to the next set of graphics that are coming in with the question that was posed to our respondents. Has the Modi government policies enhanced our global standing? Now, the NDA voters, nearly 71.5% of them feel yes, enhanced a lot, where 13.9% of them feel somewhat enhanced. Opposition voters of nearly 41.2% feel that the government's done a great job in doing so, and some enhanced somewhat, 50.4%. This is coming in from the opposition. So nearly over 50% of voters actually feel, Nikat Abbas, and I'll come to you on this, that the government has done a stellar job when it comes down, or stellar job if it comes down to enhancing our global standing. That's more than 50% of your voters. Let's go into a third set of data, and then we'll go across to our panelists. Role of opposition parties. How has opposition fared in all of this? Highly constructive, 21.1% NDA voters. Opposition, 33.6%. Others, 23.2%. Completely ineffective. 12.2% NDA voters, opposition 16.9%, others 16.8%. This is an interesting data point, and I'm one by one giving out all the points, and we're going to save the big question for the last. But the other data point we want to give out right there, when the question was posed to respondents, has bagging less seats impacted Modi 3.0 decision making? Significantly less dynamic. And that is nearly 32% of NDA voters who feel the blunt of, that the government has been impacted because where decision making is concerned, and that has blunted its decision making because it had less number of seats. 30.1% opposition feels that, and others 22.2%. slightly less dynamic, 24.9%. So, viewers, over 50% of NDA supporters feel that bagging less seats has blunted the government on the marker of decision making. So, interesting data points there. Nikat Abbas, you can pick a few and then you can lose a few, especially when it comes down to inflation, to decision making. But look at the figures where enhanced global standing, you say that India is doing terribly where our global standing is concerned. 55% of your voters, Nikat Abbas, feel that that the government has done a great job in that.
Preeti, excuse me, but I don't go by India Today's data. But what I have seen lately, G7 summit, we were dropped off under Modi's government. And what we've seen after Operation Sindoor and also the Pahalgam attack, that India has gotten no support from America or China. The only support is we've gotten from very few countries, and maximum support was gotten for the Pakistan. I mean, we've seen the IMF funding, talk about the ADB, talk about other banks have been giving loans to Pakistan. I mean, this is how India have been treated, talking about China, who's literally said that we stand for the soil of Pakistan. And also, I mean, let me just say that if everything was so good since 11 years and everything was so hunky-dory, why is that Narendra Modi ji hasn't done a single press conference, I want to know? Why is he so scared, or is he just used to the fabricated questions thrown to him as per, some few journalists? I'm not countering you on that, but yeah, what is the reason that he cannot just come and, talk to the people, talk to the media and address the nation when he can do Mann Ki Baat? What is the problem for him to be able to conduct a press conference, at least after what has happened lately, after Operation Sindoor, after Pahalgam, after our people died, and after what Trump has been saying 11 times that, he mediated or did the ceasefire, and he has been threatening us on the basis of trade. So when we talk about the global image, I don't think so the self-claimed Vishwa Guru is actually a Vishwa Guru, but also I really think that he's a diplomatic.
What's really interesting is because this has come out to be the most contested data. Nikat Abbas, you could have actually, bolstered your attack on the figures of inflation and decision making, but you chose to defend the figures of, how our global standing is under the government over the last 9 years. But that's your call.
The inflation, I said in my first segment that the food inflation is 12%
that's my point. That was my point with RP Singh, that you cannot pick one data over the other and say you agree with one piece of information and not the other. This is what the respondents, answered. If you agree with it, then you have to take it in totality. If you don't agree with it, then you can just say that I don't believe in this data. But I want to go back to RP Singh. And RP Singh, would you want to now choose to reflect on the figures of inflation, because that doesn't augur well where the government standing is concerned, or on the marker of decision making, because clearly 55% over of your own voters, the NDA voters, feel that, because you have less seats, decision making has been hugely impacted?
Well, Preeti, before I answer that, let me just clarify one thing. I mean, your team went, your complete team, if I remember, six of you went to Prime Minister Modi and did a complete interview, grilled him for everything. I mean, I don't understand what does the Nikat or the congressman, why do they keep chanting that PM doesn't meet the media? And if he says that your colleagues were doing some sweet job, then I mean, just between you and her to decide, the Congress and you to decide, your channel to decide what sort of questions were asked. But coming back to the subject of inflation and coming back to the subject of global rating, I don't understand. I mean, why there is so much of problem with Congress on the global rating of the Modi-led government. We all know that everyone in the world talks about Prime Minister Modi and in his policies. I'll give you one example and that will clarify. In Obama's book, he has written that after 26/11, Manmohan Singh he asked, why did you retaliate back on Pakistan? He said, oh, because there could have been a wave of nationalism in India and that could have benefited the BJP or the right-wing parties. Give me a second, please. So this clearly shows that even how do people abroad will take you, that you are trying to do politics even on issue of national security.
RP Singh, I want to give out the last final figure, and I want to give each one of you 15 seconds each, because that's all the time that I have for now. So the last final figure, and that's what it all comes down to, viewers, because you can look at all the markers that we've shown you of how the respondents feel in terms of the Modi governance and his NDA government performance of 11 years. It'll come down to one main marker. Should Modi continue as Prime Minister beyond 2029? 73.9%, nearly 74% NDA voters feel yes. Nearly 46.1% opposition voters feel yes. Others, 46.8% feel yes. No, 14.7%, 14.2%, 29% others say no. I want to quickly bring in all our panelists for a quick word in, because Amitabh Tiwari, if this is the report card after 11 years on an incumbent Prime Minister, he hasn't fared too badly as per this survey.
No, clearly it shows that there is no opposition or no leader who can match his charisma or achievements. There are two main issues: corruption and inflation. Main poll planks of Modi when he came to power in 2014. However, these two parameters, it seems that the numbers are very tight and the
Right.
government needs to work hard. On the aspect of global standing, I think the numbers always continue to be high, but we have to compare with last year's numbers, given the controversy around the ceasefire, whether this number has actually increased
Right.
or
Okay.
from.
Ashutosh, very quickly, sir, 30 seconds each. You're on mute, sir. Mute.
Yeah. See, Preeti, if I had believed the data which was given on the eve of 2024 parliamentary election, by now the Prime Minister Narendra Modi would have 400 member of parliament with the BJP itself. So data has its own limitation, and he would have won by 10 lakh votes in the Banaras itself, whereas he struggled to win, and that too when Mr. Amit Shah has to sit in Banaras for at least for the 2 days. The issue is very simple. Today, India at the foreign policy level is the loneliest in the world. Even the Russia is not with us, with whom we bought the cheapest at the crude oil when the Russia was really in need.
Okay,
Today,
so
Russia
Ashutosh, you're
is having an
contesting this
affair with
data.
China.
20 seconds, Rajat. This data is the most contested data I have ever done a PSC on. Go ahead, Rajat, make your point.
I just feel, this data is a mirror to the opposition. Instead of finding constant flaws in Prime Minister Modi and his style of functioning, improve yourself. If you feel that there is a vacuum in governance, fill that vacuum by creating an alternate
All right,
model.
10 seconds, Nikhat. I'm sorry, I'm coming in.
They will never do that.
Okay, 10 seconds, Nikhat. 10 seconds, RP Singh. That's all you have. One line, ma'am.
Surprisingly, all the flaws are in the opposition, and probably which is why ED and CBI takes a run only to the opposition leaders. But the moment the opposition leader joined the Bharatiya Janata Party, it's all washed off. He's also clean. He's also set to, lead the nation. I mean, that's exactly the hypocrisy what BJP has to
But
show.
you also
I mean, if we
contest
go
the
by
data. That's what you mean to say.
Let's
All
also
right,
go by the
okay.
data which
RP
is being
Singh, 10
shown
seconds,
directly
sir.
from the government agencies.
Okay, RP Singh, 10 seconds. I need to close this.
Very straight, 4 points. Upliftment of poor, corruption-free government, economy doing good, and then national security, the biggest concern. I mean,
but RP Singh, you've not the points you picked on are the ones where it's done the worst in this data point. But if you look all in all, net viewers, this is not a bad report card after 11 years. Actually, it's a pretty good one, if you go by this data. And like I said, of all the 5 who are sitting on this television screen, other than Amitabh Tiwari, each one of them have contested this data at some point. Even Rajat Sethi hasn't actually. A quick break. No, you haven't. I said you haven't. Okay, a quick break. We're going to leave it at that. Until the next set of data rolls in, this is where it stands. Right now, it's thumbs up for the Modi government after 11 years.